Hey, we're doing another one of these Freddy versus Jason things.
Yeah, we are. I don't know how to follow that one up.
Man, I had so much fun with that last one we did.
Oh, absolutely.
And I've already got a friend of mine who would listen. His name is Brandon Whitehead. He lives up in New York. He said he has a good explanation for me about the ending of the first Nightmare on Elm Street. So I asked him to call in or leave me a voice memo. So when they get if he does that, I'll play it on the show. I'm kind of curious what he has to say
I'm very curious on that.
Yeah.
It's about the ending of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. Yeah, because we had some, remember, loose ends has become maybe my favorite part of doing this is I keep a list of loose ends that I pick up on in the movies.
Yeah. I actually have a few of those also.
It's a good time.
But to me, I'll hold that thought.
So, in case you're tuning in on this second episode of this is a limited series about the Friday the 13th movies that feature Jason as the villain.
So not part one.
Not part one. And the A Nightmare on Elm Street series. And I'm Freddy and this is Jason.
That's all true.
So it was all fucking no-brainer. So
I don't know how it took us this long.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we've done podcasts about horror movies for I've done them for like 16 years and you've done them for like close to, what is it, about 10?
Yeah, close to.
Yeah, and then we just finally did this. So yeah, it was right there under our nose.
Well, we're not the quickest.
I've never been accused of being smart. So this week we're doing Friday the 13th part 3 from 1982, shot in 3D.
God, that is good coffee.
It is good coffee.
That is good coffee.
Yeah, that's just
I'm sorry.
What is it, at 8 o'clock or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I like it.
Sorry, I'm distracted by this.
I'm so happy that you're enjoying it because you almost passed on coffee.
I did, and that would have been foolish of me.
It would have been real foolish.
All right, I'm sorry.
So Friday the 13th part 3 budgeted at $2.3 million versus A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 Freddy's Revenge came out 3 years later in 1985 for $3 million. So we're still budget-wise in the same ballpark with both of these movies. One big thing I noticed was this is the first Friday the 13th film, it looks like, where they've moved all the filming except for a very small portion of it to California.
Yeah, I could see that.
So we were talking about in the first episode how A Nightmare on Elm Street in the settings of these movies and how it's kind of East Coast, West Coast. Like, it's still supposed to be New Jersey in Friday the 13th.
Is it?
Yeah. It's always New Jersey. I know that much, at least. Until he gets, to Manhattan and outer space and all that.
Well, that's one of the things that got me about this, and I made a note to specifically bring it up. This doesn't mention Crystal Lake at all.
It maybe not in the dialogue, but the Crystal Lake General Store sign is there.
No shit.
That's the whole in the opening of part 3. You have this general store, Harold, and what was his?
Love Harold.
Do you know what his wife's character's name was? I don't know if they ever say, but she's Edna, which makes sense.
Yes, because he says, because I remember part 3. Part 3 is, I love part 3. But when he finds the rabbit in the produce.
Shit. Sorry, I cut your mic off for a second.
That's right.
I thought I was touching my mic.
When he picks the rabbit up and he says, Edna's going to kill you or make a fur coat out of you if she finds you in here. I love Harold.
Harold, that performance is so 80s. That kind of man doesn't really exist anymore.
Sure.
He's been scrubbed out of existence somehow. But I love one. I told Amy, I was like, why doesn't anybody ever cosplay as Harold? Like, all you need is like a dirty T-shirt over a long sleeve shirt. Yeah, and a rabbit, like a stuffed rabbit.
Oh, that would be so great.
And I feel like that would be a phenomenal cosplay.
Just since we're on the topic of Harold, one of my favorite things that really stuck out this time since I'm watching it. Can you turn me up a little?
Yeah.
Since we're watching it to analyze is the 3D rattlesnake.
Yeah.
I didn't really put it together. Literally scares the shit out of him.
I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, he goes right to the outhouse.
The thing
after.
like jumps at him. He screams and yells, and it cuts to him in the outhouse.
Yeah.
Not only that, but they decided to add the sound effects in.
Of him dropping deuces.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of plopping.
Yeah.
I
was like, did we really need that?
Yeah, I think we did. You know what? There's something very visceral and grimy about the Friday the 13th movies that is part of it.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think like part of him being so dirty, part of them dressing up a young actress to look like an old woman kind of and to play this kind of cronish character.
Yeah.
Who is nagging her husband when clearly looking at that actress, this is not a role that she was really made to play, right? She's kind of hamming it up.
Oh yeah.
And this whole sequence and the fact I assume this general store must be just a real location or their art director. I have a lot to say about the art direction in this movie because I think it is really the most. It's the beginning of the most refined look of what you expect out of the area around Crystal Lake and what the houses would probably look like and the interiors and the lights and everything. But the general store has, which is the one part of the movie they still filmed in New Jersey, is the exteriors of the general store, which is the Camp Crystal Lake store, and that's the Harold and Edna's place, and it's all locomotive themed. Did you notice that?
I actually did notice that.
I had never noticed that until
there's like trains everywhere. The Great Train Robbery has a movie poster hanging up.
Yeah, he's got a Great Train Robbery poster. Yeah. He's got the fishbowl with the little train in it.
Oh shit, you're right.
There's a whole model train around the outside, like running around the perimeter.
I wonder if that, like you said, I wonder if that was just like a store they...
Well, outside it says, look out for the locomotive. There's a little sign, and I don't know if they have like a little train, like one of those tourist attraction kiddie trains.
That would be so cool.
I'm wondering if that's what it was. And if so, how do you not, like, if you have the train at your disposal, how do you not
use it?
Yeah, use that as a vehicle to a kill. I wonder if they shot something that didn't work, because I feel like my first instinct, if I had a little train to play with, would be how do I get Jason involved with this train?
Oh. Completely off topic of the train.
Yeah.
You're looking at my notes. And we're kind of all over the place with this, so I don't want to sidetrack you.
No, that's okay. We're loosey-goosey.
To me, this opening montage that they redid, like they did in the last one, first off, it's like over 5 minutes because I timed it. To me, actually shows the ending of part 2. Remember we were debating?
Right. What happened to
What happened at the end of part 2? Where's Paul?
Yeah.
To me... it shows that she basically was like losing her mind.
Yeah,
that nothing happened after the machete chop.
Oh, I didn't even think about it that way. I just thought he must have killed Paul because they said she was the sole survivor.
Oh fuck, you're right.
So, but it does support what you're saying too, because if everything after the machete shop, if that. I mean, because wasn't Paul still presumed dead at that point in the second movie where she is fighting Jason because Paul has already been kind of beaten up?
Yeah.
I think.
No, because Paul was part of the final fight. After she hits him, Jason with the machete, they walk off together. But you're right, if they say sole survivor.
Yeah, Paul died.
What the fuck happened at the end of part 2 then?
Apparently Paul got killed somehow off screen.
All right, well, then that blew my theory out of the water.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because to me, I watched the montage and I was like, that seems like a more logical answer.
Yeah.
After that, and she was just, her body caught up with her.
Well, there's always
collapsed.
The unreliable narrator, is like, it's really bad, a cop out for bad writing usually. And then I think in this case, it's not necessarily bad writing, but just like, it's not necessary for these movies to work. Like, they don't need to be chronologically tight, I think.
True.
Because I think it's more, like we said this, I think, in the first one, to have a story that there's no limits on the creativity, really, not even its own continuity, which to me, I like that sometimes, where it's like, is it more important to entertain?
Since you brought that up, I've been watching them like that, and I do think these early entries, excuse me, sinuses, do kind of work as standalones.
Yeah.
Because of the opening
Oh yeah, the previously on.
Because of that, like, and it's smart on their part.
Yeah.
You know, if you didn't see part 1 and 2, and also, are you going to be that lost?
You know, it'd be
That's
fun.
what
They should have gotten Betsy Palmer to just record previously on Friday the 13th at the beginning of each one, and then you get that synopsis. But you're right. Yeah, so far, 100%, each one of these works as an individual movie.
Yeah, and I think it kind of works with what we've been talking about, that I love Friday the 13th, but it's not that deep.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, are you really going to be that lost?
Yeah, it's a visceral, it's about your body. Like, it's all about the body.
Speaking of, actually, I had that random thought watching this. This was the first Friday the 13th movie I saw.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah, I can't remember which one I saw first.
I'm 95% sure this was the first one I saw because it's the one that stood out the most to me.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I think part 2 might have been my first, because that's also the one in particular, her spraying perfume down her underwear for some reason. Like in that movie, you know, sometimes people do things in a movie that's just something you're not used to seeing, and that burns that movie into your mind forever. You know, like maybe somebody eats popcorn a weird way in the movie, or
sprays perfume down their underwear,
or does that, or any of those quirky little things. Where it's like the example in this one of Harold's turds hitting the water.
Oh God,
which is disgusting, but at the same time, it really makes that scene feel real in a way.
It does,
and I just think it harkens back to how much Friday the 13th is about the here and now, and the physical danger in the room with you, and the grit and the grime and the dirt of it, and being out in the wilderness. I mean, I think is even more so. It's like it's almost like Jason's almost like a bear, you know, like it's just like this relentless monster. So I love that. You know, you get over to the setting in Nightmare 2, and they're still figuring things out, which is funny because we talk about like the background of these characters, the villains in particular, that they kind of had that figured out in the first Nightmare on Elm Street, what the background for Freddy was, and it was kind of resolved, wherein Friday the 13th was still figuring that out as they went along with Jason, what he was. And I think the opposite is true of the settings, where Crystal Lake, the whole idea of this place was really well realized from go, but Springwood was still growing. Like, it didn't feel like Springwood as the town. It's kind of, this is the beginning of it, is you see more of the high school.
True.
You get to see more of the actual houses that the kids live in and the neighborhoods they live in. You get more of an impression that this is a very wealthy part of this town.
Yeah, like Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, very much.
It could be Bayside.
It could be Bayside. And then you have like Don's Place, the leather bars brought into this, which is a really wild set piece. And
I don't know, like I said, I know where you said we're doing loosey-goosey on this, but I had so many thoughts going through my head during Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck am I watching was the main one. Like, this movie, I can confirm that I'd have only seen that movie once before.
Yeah.
Years ago, obviously, decades at this point. I am shocked at how much of it I remembered.
Yeah.
But then I also was like, this movie, to me, is more of a mess than I remember it.
Yeah, I saw all of the Nightmare movies in the theater, include from 1 all the way through.
That's impressive.
And my mom and dad love horror. Well, my mom in particular really loved horror movies. And one of the things that we would always, if there was a big horror movie that came out, we were in the theater to see it. And I was 7 maybe when I saw this. I hated it. I hated it so much because it wasn't what I was expecting. And that I've evolved on it over the years because I appreciate now that 2 things happened in this new Nightmare, this Freddy's Revenge movie. And that I think got the ball rolling for the franchise, but also there was a thing that is special unto the movie itself. So like you start to get the sense of this town of Springwood has kind of layers to it, and there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of scandal in this town, and it's about like there's a lot of things, nightmares, but also this living nightmare of people finding out who you are and knowing too much about you, Like, so there's a depth that is introduced in this one, even as silly as the movie is. And then you have, besides that personal element, you get very specifically the Jesse character being like, you know, this first like gay scream queen character, and
which he's great.
He's awesome. He's a great actor.
I've said this to you. I said it to you in a text message. As many problems I have with this movie, he's not one of them. He's great.
Have you seen Scream Queen?
I have not yet.
Scream Queen's really good. Actually, the podcast is in Scream Queen. Fozzie interviewed Mark for the podcast, and there's video footage of that at HorrorHound. And I've spent a lot of time as a result of all the being around that documentary being filmed and being a big Nightmare fan, and then meeting Mark Patton and talking to him. Like, you have the perception of what this movie is. You always suspected it's a gay metaphor if you had gay friends growing up. Like, there was a point as a teenager where
when
it
was tough because I was trying to watch this without that mindset.
Yeah.
And with that mindset, if that makes sense.
Well, you can separate them
I was trying to watch them both.
Like, watch it as a slasher, but also as a social thing.
And if you watch it as a social thing, it works completely.
Yeah.
That's where it's successful. If you watch it as a slasher thing, that's where I think it fails.
It's definitely not a slasher film.
It is not.
It's a commentary on,
to me,
how parents cope with a closeted gay kid, I think. And how they tend to like minimize
I need to rewatch the Never Sleep Again documentary.
Oh, that's a
great documentary. Yeah. It is long. It is so good though.
Yeah.
But I'm almost sure Mark Patton, that's his name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did an interview where he said that movie was filmed with that intention.
There's argument about everyone involved, and it's funny. Our friends,
wait, you're right, because there was someone else I remember an interview saying,
Jack Shoulder. I don't want to misquote anybody about the production. Again, our focus is probably not going to be really about like behind the scenes stuff. But if you're interested in that, like you were saying, that documentary series and Camp Crystal Lake Memories are both of them.
So great.
So if you're if you're listening to this and you haven't already delved into like the hardcore nitty gritty of like they
are intimidating because they are both very long. Yeah. Never Sleep Again's like 4+ hours.
Flies by though.
So worth it. You won't regret it.
I've watched both of those in a sitting. Like,
absolutely.
Fantastic. It's like those docs and Scream Queen, the three of them together, I think tell a really great story of what these movies, what went into making them and kind of what they meant to people. But like, I think from and we're looking at these as individual films and then kind of how they contribute to like creating these brands and these franchises. But like, with that particular thing, with Nightmare 2, it could they almost didn't get Robert Englund back. I know it could have gone 1,000 different ways, but they chose to make it about Jesse.
Yeah,
they've moved to this new town. They haven't even completely unpacked yet, and Jesse is going through this torment of realizing he's gay, and his parents, especially the father, Clu Gulager's great.
He is great.
Total denial, and Freddy is the manifestation because he's going through this. It's really a haunted house movie. Like, Freddy is haunting the house.
Yes.
He recognizes that Jesse's this tormented kid with a subconscious issue going on, and it gives Freddy an opening to come into our world. So whoever wrote this, I forgive me, like I said, I'm not worried about behind the scenes stuff. This is about the story. But like, whoever wrote that particular part of it's very ambitious because it's saying that Nightmare on Elm Street isn't about nightmares anymore because Freddy can come into our world.
That's true.
And it's also saying that this creative, this bottomless creative well of setting scenes in the nightmares of the children of Elm Street as they're being taken out for the revenge of the vigilante murder of Freddy Krueger, right? Like, this is completely not that. It's not, you don't get but maybe 2 moments that are clearly taking place in the dream world, which is also kind of the first time you see the dream world being blatantly the dream world. Like,
true.
You get the goat in the first one.
There are so many weird things in this movie. Since we're on the topic, so many things stood out to me, like based on that. And again, not to interrupt,
You're not interrupting.
But like you said with the dream world, this is more on the movie level of like watching it as just a movie. When Jesse is falling asleep in class, which also he has that weird relationship with that guy in this movie.
You talking about Grady?
The other student?
Yeah, his best friend Grady, which is Robert Russler,
weird.
who's also great.
That whole subplot was weird to me in that Jesse was kind of the asshole in that whole thing. Like, Grady was like just busting his balls a little bit. And then like when they were doing the push-ups,
yeah, like
Grady's just trying to make small talk. And like Jesse's like, what's it to you? Like, he's snapping at him all the time.
You know what I think is going on there? Like, I think they're both gay.
Yes. I agree with that.
I don't believe that Ron, is it Rod Grady or Ron Grady? I just call him Grady whenever I remember the character. I don't think Grady knew he was gay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think Jesse did. And I think if, again, this, just from the experience with the gay people in my life, like with some gay men especially, there's a frustration when they see someone who is in denial of that part of them and that there is potential for them to have some kind of relationship possibly, but this person isn't moving towards like owning their sexuality in any way. They're kind of like shucking and jiving away from it as much as possible. I think that's kind of, to me, that's how that scene reads now. I mean, as an adult looking back on it.
But then going on the surface level, he falls asleep in class. And he's like, Grady's like kind of like nudging other people, like, look at him, he's falling asleep. And then you see this giant snake wrapping around Jesse. And he screams, and the snake's there.
Right, you think it's a dream.
And the teacher says, like, if you want to play with animals, like,
join the circus or something?
Something like that. And it's like, control your fucking snake. You're going to have a fucking boa constrictor, like, attacking your students?
Control your snake!
Like, come on.
So
that was almost a loose end to me where I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like,
yeah,
the snake just gets out of its like container and like attacks your students.
You know what's funny though is that happened to me at HorrorHound. I didn't fall asleep, but there was a snake at our neighbor's booth. There was these exotic animal people.
Fuck that.
It was this albino, just giant albino boa constrictor maybe, or python. I can't remember which.
That's a big old nope for me.
And it kept creeping up on my shoulder because it was right, like it's me sitting next to the booth.
Those things get pretty close.
And it kept coming over. I mean, I would pat it on the head because I was trying to, in my imagination, I'm like you're like friends. A dog. Yeah, we're buddies. Friends. Yeah, remember I'm your friend. And then I'd kind of push it back a little bit, you know. I think it probably just wanted to be warm, probably. But
yeah, that's fucked up.
But the funny part is, I think about that snake scene, and I'm like, I could see it happening. I could see somebody being a kid, especially one who is not sleeping, like somebody draping a snake on them and them just continuing to sleep. If you did it gently enough, it could be a real thing. But the fact that it is a real thing is odd for a Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
So the other thing, because you mentioned Dom's place.
Yeah.
Where there is that subplot with the gym teacher.
Yeah.
Where they're like, Grady's like saying like, oh yeah, he's definitely gay. He goes to S&M clubs and like all that stuff. So Jesse has a fight with his parents and runs out of the house and ends up at that bar.
Yep.
And bumps into his gym teacher.
Well, I love that Jesse's ordering a beer when the teacher catches him.
Well, he orders a beer and then like pours just a little bit of it into a small glass.
Yeah. It's a very adult way to handle a beer for a teenager. You would think they would just grab the bottle and drink it.
Yeah. And then like to me, that whole scene I was like, this is a dream sequence, right?
It felt like a dream.
But then it was like his coach catches him there and says like, give me 50 laps. So he takes Jesse to the school to make him run laps.
Do you feel like
what?
I feel like this character, and I'm projecting a lot of things about people I know onto these characters. And that for me, that's part of the fun with a lot of these movies, especially when they're loosely written, kind of the way this one is loosely written. I think the coach, he has to. I think he's mad. He has to shift gears from his night out because he has a responsibility because he has spotted one of his minor students in this bar drinking. And his way of dealing with it is the way he would deal with it during the day. He's like, I'm wearing the leather harness, but the leather harness is coming off and my coach hat's coming off.
Don't let this confuse you.
Yeah. I think that's what was going on there.
That is one of the weirdest sequences in any horror movie I've seen.
Was
the entire time, I'm like, he's going to wake up now, right?
Yeah.
Because this doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
It's bizarre, but if you reason through it, the thing is, stranger things happen in real life than happen in that sequence.
I guess.
Like, it's possible. And, like, it actually paints the coach as a kind of virtuous character where you think he's a threat to Jesse. But the truth of the matter is, he's doing what the adult in that situation should do, is he's to ask himself, do I call the police and have this kid get in trouble with that? Or as their mentor and teacher, do I just go back into teacher mode, take them to the place where I'm teacher and I'm an authority figure, and have them do the punishment that always seems to work out in my world? And I think the tables clearly are turned there when this is really the moment when Freddy has taken over Jesse's body completely.
Yeah. Yeah, because Jesse does say, like, flat out, like, I killed him.
Yeah, and
one of the weirder deaths also.
Yeah, because you mean the way he's strapped up?
Yeah.
Well, I think it had to be indicative of his lifestyle, the at least the way a lot of mainstream people see the S&M lifestyle,
which
makes it play more dramatically, you know?
To speak strictly as to, again, move off of the social part of it, and review it kind of as a horror fan, and I text you this, I was like, you don't even get a fucking kill until 37 minutes in on a Nightmare on Elm Street movie? I was like, what the hell is this? That was one of the big things. I was like, I'm sorry to say it bluntly, I was like, this movie just bored me.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, and that's part of it. The first couple of times I saw the movie, like I said, I hate it. There's certain things I still have issue with, but I found a way to rationalize some of them, and one of them is the exploding bird.
That is such a, again, like
what the hell? Yeah.
And then you have Clue, like, yelling at him afterwards. He's checking for gas leaks.
He believes that he put a cherry bomb
in the bird.
But then you know what happened as I thought about that more, and I stepped back and I'm like, okay, I'm going to assume everything in this movie has happened for a reason. And the reason that scene happened for me is it serves two purposes. I think that the bird died because Jesse's possession by Freddy has generated so much heat in the house, because that's like the side effect of the supernatural thing that's happening.
Yeah.
Is heat, because Freddy died in a fire, right? So I think that's why they put that in there. And then the other thing is, it's another example of the father character, the Clu Gulager character, being in denial of what's happening right in front of him.
True.
It's
okay. All right, I'll give you that one.
It's like saying, Dad, I'm gay. And a bird could explode in front of you, and you would think it's
maybe this is where this podcast will morph into, and that's you looking at that type of stuff, whereas I'm looking at this as just a regular horror movie and saying, like, when they tried to make that scene like dramatic, it was like, no,
bird scene.
I'm not on the edge of my seat by a fucking parakeet flying around a living room through bird vision.
Yeah, there are moments in this, the bizarre nature of them were real off, especially as a kid, were so off-putting to me because they didn't jive with, I couldn't figure out why, Excuse me. The sister character creeped me out frequently.
Yeah, she was weird.
Her pulling all those witch fingers out of the cereal and just
also very racist cereal they're eating.
Oh, what was it?
They're eating Fu Manchu cereal.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Like, wow.
I wonder why they chose that. I'm sure there's a reason, but excuse me. The story with this and the little sister character almost feels like she's living in a dream.
She's almost like one of the little girls that is singing.
The jump rope kids.
She's almost like one of the jump rope kids.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, very much like that.
I wonder if that's what they were going for.
Mm-hmm.
You have we talked about Don's Place and the school, Springwood High. Like, this is you see a little bit of it in the first Nightmare on Elm Street, but they spend a lot of time in the school in this one, and then that becomes kind of a thing that you expect from a Nightmare on Elm Street movies going forward after 3 is this return to Springwood and the high school, and this age group for some reason is they're not children. They're on the cusp of adulthood. It's characters.
Like Saved by the Bell.
Yeah. But he's so tempted to kill Freddy is when he has Jesse. He's clearly like very close to killing the little sister. So, but you never really see Freddy, this notorious child killer. You never really see him kill children.
Mm-mm.
And I think it's because audiences, it's unpalatable for audiences. Like you don't.
Back then, it was.
Yeah. Even
nowadays they kill kids.
They do, but like build a film franchise around a guy who kills kids is probably a stretch now. Even like children. The another kind of change in the nightmare set piece that was, I'll talk about under loose ends, I think, but the big industrial boiler room.
Yeah.
I always felt Freddy was a janitor.
Yeah.
I don't know how that seeped into I'm trying to figure out what point, if they ever even say it in the movies, or if that's just
There's a lot of stuff I want to look for, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
Like where these ideas came from. And the big one I always talk about, and I'm not the first one to bring it up, is the child molesting thing.
Right.
And that's become part of like Freddy's mythos.
Well, the mother in the
where
first
did it come
one,
from?
She says he was a filthy child murderer. She never says.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, where did it come from?
I think it's a safe leap that the reason someone kills children is because they've already committed another crime with that
Doing
kid.
like an Albert Fish.
Yeah, I think it's usually like the cart before the horse.
I get what you're saying, but I want to see if there's any place that they directly flat out say.
I get you. Like, because that's what I'm thinking too, is like, what is a fan
because there is
presumption and what is written into the story, right?
This is going to sound like a leap, but it is like, that's like a big leap for, like, how do people like Freddy if he's a child molester? Like,
you're talking about the culture?
Yeah. I'm talking about
happens.
I'm talking like, fine, I understand he kills kids, but we watch horror movies for killings and let's see, but like when you throw in the molestation.
It is funny though that we have more of a revulsion to crimes that are sexual than we do to crimes that are just brutal without the sex.
Well, I mean, let's not go down that path, but yes.
But no, I mean like it makes sense like when they're writing this stuff to hint at certain things and show you others.
Sure.
Because they're like, they can't be held accountable for what's in your imagination. They can only put the seed there when they are very deliberately like there's no other result when you tell someone who has grown up in the culture we've grown up in and you watch these movies, you're going to come to certain conclusions and draw. And then what happens when the audience feeds it back into the cycle and then it becomes part of canon and then they write it in and how it refines the whole thing. But in particular, the big industrial boiler room, which is out in the middle of nowhere, is incongruous with everything else that I know about Freddy Krueger.
I mean, it looks like his dream place.
Yeah, but it's a real world place, and it's supposed to be where he took the kids. When I always had the assumption that the boiler room was in the school.
Yeah.
Every other time I've watched these movies. And then Camp Crystal Lake, right? You go back to that setting. We're still not in Camp Crystal Lake in part 3.
Yeah.
Bless you, Elsa. You go out there and take care of whatever's happening. But we're at Chris's family farm, right?
Yes.
Which is on the coast of Crystal Lake somewhere.
Sure. Kind of like part 2 where it seems like they share.
Yeah.
They share a beach.
And I love that Chris has had a previous run-in with Jason.
Yeah, that's a big topic I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is a huge loose end.
Yeah.
Of like,
why do you return
what the fuck? Like, well, not even that, but what the hell happened?
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't remember the movie, that's kind of like the big deal for this lead character / final girl, Chris, is that she's returning to this place. Like you said, her parents' like cabin. She's taking her friends. They're all kind of hesitant because they're saying like, "Oh, should you go back?" And she's like, "I have to like confront it," and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So she tells the story finally after hinting about this. She tells the story to Paul. Right? Is that his name?
They all sound like they're named Paul in this.
Rick,
yeah.
Which, God, I fucking hate Rick so much. He's easily my least favorite character.
Oh, why do you hate Rick?
He's just, man, he comes across, he rubs me the wrong way.
Is he too?
You know what? He's too pushy. He's all about like, hey, you're here, let's fuck.
Yeah.
Like that's literally all it is. Like, hey, Chris, you're back. Let's go bang.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's literally all he talks about.
Yeah.
He's like, so when are we banging again? So she's telling Rick this traumatic story of, again, she gets into a fight with her parents, runs out into the woods, sits down, hears footsteps behind her. She says, I assume it's my dad. All of a sudden, it's Jason Voorhees. She doesn't know it's Jason, but she says it's a disfigured man, and he's attacking her. He has a knife. She says she knocks the knife out of his hands, and then she blacks out, and she wakes up in her bed.
Yeah.
What?
Which is very weird, right? It's the big loose end for me. And all.
It also just came in and started licking my leg aggressively.
She's like, you guys see this thing in the other room? It's this big man who lives in the woods.
But what is that subplot?
It makes me wonder if she didn't transgress against Jason and he's like, oh, you just wandered off. I'm going to return you home. I know you live on the lake and I don't bother people that live on the lake. Maybe because she's not a camper or a camp counselor. But they're like, I will rationalize the shit out of it because I always wonder, like, there's no way. Did the writer really go through this in their mind and think about the entire story and say this would happen?
Yeah.
So they had to, I think, I'm making a lot of assumptions about like what this writer thinks they owe their audience, I think. But I like to think the writer was probably like, the rule here is, because they're still establishing what the rules are, is that I think he felt like if they had a right to be on the coast of the lake, that they weren't a target. Because you don't.
I think that's a stretch, but
because it does feel like there are people.
To me, it just feels like lazy.
Well, he kills Edna and Harold, and they live on the lake.
Yeah,
they have the shop.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Why did he kill them? There's no motive, right? It makes sense that he kills the teenagers because they establish that the teenagers killed his mom.
That he has like a triggering.
Yeah, that the
he
camp
sees a teenager and he automatically goes into kill mode.
And it becomes that Jason.
But yeah, you're right.
Everyone.
His first victims are Edna and Harold.
Yeah, in this film. So, and if you look at it as a standalone film and you're trying to,
and it does, kind of go to what we've talked about before, in that if he's lived in this area for his whole life, why didn't he kill them before?
Right, he had plenty of opportunity to kill them
because they look established. They set up shop.
Oh, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the motive is still muddied.
To put it lightly, yeah.
Because really, when you think about it, this is Jason as we know it for the first time.
Yes, and I want to go on record here. This is by far my favorite Jason interpretation.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know we talked about doing like a breakdown maybe in a bonus episode. I love this Jason so much.
He is
Richard
really
Brooker.
Yeah.
Like, he looks... maybe you can agree with this. He almost came across as like a Frankenstein to me.
Yeah.
Like in this,
Definitely.
lumbering.
He's lumbering.
Where in part 2, he's more agile. Like
his shoulders don't seem like normally, like they seem abnormal the way they're formed. And I think that creates a different silhouette. Like I can tell this Jason, if you put up the silhouettes of these Jasons,
100%.
you can tell them apart.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't take like somebody who's even a fan to know. Like you can look at the silhouettes and you're like, that is a different character than this. I'm surprised. Has anybody done an evolutionary chart with Jasons?
I mean, I have like a little poster that actually Aaron gave me of like all of the different Jasons.
I mean, are they walking though?
No,
I like the idea of them walking.
Awesome.
You know,
Freddy.
like you see in the Natural History Museum where you have the ape
fuck, dude, that's brilliant. I would hang that poster up.
That'd be fun, right?
Yeah, I would hang that poster up.
But that Jason, he's real scary. You see his face frequently.
That's why
in this one,
I'm going to tell you that we're jumping all over the place, but it's important to note that's why I remember this being my first Friday the 13th, because this Jason scared the shit out of me.
Yeah,
when I was young, and I had to jump to the end, the scene with her, because it kind of ends the same way as part 1, where she gets in a boat. Yeah, and kind of goes out into the middle of the lake.
I love the reverse on that.
The end, what?
where it's
yes.
where it's Mrs. Voorhees instead of young Jason.
So then in the very end, Chris, has a pretty good fight.
Yeah.
With Jason. I don't necessarily like her too much as a final girl, but she has a good fight.
I liked Vera more. I wanted Vera.
Well, sure. Duh.
Like, if they could have just switched those actors.
I don't
roles.
disagree.
Yeah. Although I do think she was fine. Like,
she was fine.
I think Chris is.
I like Ginny better from part 2.
Yeah. If we're talking heroes, Chris versus Jesse.
Yeah.
Both unisex names, by the way.
That's true.
I'd
Jesse's
say
better.
Jesse is a much more interesting character.
Well, 100%.
Yeah.
But she's in the boat and she sees Jason Voorhees up in the top of this thing without his mask on, and he freaks out. And to me, that stuck with me so hard. I still, to this day, envision that when I see like old barns and stuff.
Yeah.
Is looking up in the top
there.
window and seeing him looking out, and like he can't figure out, like I would need to get there.
Yeah.
But he starts like clawing at the window. And so then he figured I just need to go, and he busts through the door and he runs out, and like that was a dream.
Yeah.
So here's a big loose end that I want to get to. She sees that, but then she like snaps out of it and looks back, and clearly that didn't happen because the door's still on the hinge and there's no Jason Voorhees. Mrs. Voorhees jumps out of the water and grabs her.
That's so great.
What the fuck is that?
You know what?
Because I wrote it down.
Yeah.
No one mentions any type of history of Jason Voorhees or Mrs. Voorhees or any type of history, not like part 2.
Yeah.
They don't even touch on it. Like, you have to assume that none of these characters know anything about the history of this lake.
Yeah.
So if she imagined that, how did she imagine Mrs. Voorhees?
Right. Yeah. Unless it's just something she knew from an experience off screen, or the writers just like,
just said we need to put
too much
in.
fun.
Because the ending of this movie to me was so ridiculous with that. And then like it cuts to like the cops rescuing her. And she's in the back of the cop car just randomly screaming at the top. Oh my God.
Performance is really good.
She's just like, she's like in the back, and she like, it does this quick cut to her just screaming.
Well, it's great because she's reacting to any bit of stimulus at all.
Yes.
As if it's Jason. Like in that moment, like the boat bumping the log, and she's like, ah!
Yeah.
And she has a great scream. Both Jesse and Chris are like,
I'll give you that,
screamers that like you can't top the screamers in these two movies. Like the screams are killer. Yeah. And if you're into that sort of thing, I think it's operatic.
It can be,
like
it's also going to be irritating for me sometimes.
I think it's irritating if it doesn't play true, but in both of the movies that we watched for this one, I think the screams, not from the whole cast, but specifically from Mark Patton and from the actress who played Chris, I've forgotten her name, are so dramatic and well-timed. It's like music, and you're watching it. It's like, this is what a slasher is, and that's what a scream in a slasher is supposed to sound like. And her reactions they're not telegraphed in any way.
Good point.
Which is the thing about horror films, when an actor can react to something. In Chris's character, she reacts to something, it's as if it really happened to her.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is the selling point, which might be why Vera is Vera and Chris is Chris. I don't know.
Could be.
The hockey mask's first appearance.
Yes, and it's such a great scene because can we talk about Shelley for a brief second?
Oh, absolutely.
He's so great.
He's a great character. Like,
I love Shelley.
I actually have a little bit of a soft spot for Shelley. 90% of Shelley. I have.
Okay, what's the other 10%?
Is how he reacts to Vera shooting him down.
Oh well, of course he's horrible,
kind of a shithead.
Yeah.
But other than that, the character is pretty freaking great.
It does go into that stereotype of like horny teenagers in horror movies where it's like, you don't like me, well then I'm gonna mope. Maybe you'll sleep with me if I'm sad.
Yeah. You talk about pressure. Him and what's his name, Rick?
Yes.
They both are coming at it from two different angles.
That is true. There's two different sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Shelley, though, I just absolutely love him. He's so funny, but also very irritating. But yes, that is like where, again, you do think about that. The hockey mask just kind of comes out of nowhere. Shelley decides he's going to put a hockey mask on with a diving suit.
Yeah, and a harpoon.
It actually
makes sense as like a character in his mind, maybe, where he's just like, I have a diving suit and a harpoon, and they can't recognize me. I have a hockey mask. So it in a way that kind of, you're like, okay, these are things that he got his hands on that doesn't have to make sense, but now it's the brand.
Yep.
And when you look back on it as the Friday the 13th brand, really it's all wrapped up in Shelley's off-screen death.
There's so many things in part 3 that I fucking love. I love this movie so much. The bikers.
Oh, God, yeah, me too.
That are just like, again, starting shit for no reason.
I have a loose end about the bikers when we get to that.
I want to hear.
Or you want me to go? I go ahead and tell you. When they go, why did Fox touch everything in Chris's barn? Like, there's a.
Oh yeah, when she's like walking through it, just literally.
I was just watching it and I'm like, this just felt like they didn't give her any direction.
Yeah,
in
just
that
do
scene.
stuff. Go into the barn and do stuff.
Yeah. And she's like, do stuff means touch everything.
Yep.
For no reason, like for no logical.
I do kind of laugh that they were going to just burn down that barn.
They were pissed off. And I guess.
Which is also interesting because Ali, not to interrupt, but Ali gets a fake death.
Yeah.
The head biker, I guess he's the head biker, gets a fake death and then comes back to kind of like almost save Chris.
Yeah, he tries to save
end.
Chris.
Even though he was about to burn their entire shit down.
Well, isn't it funny that like what I feel like 80s movies in particular painted a picture of what was acceptable behavior that is so drastically different than now, where I think we were easier going back then where someone could break the window on our car and we'd be like, well, that's this level and it's not killing somebody. It's you broke my window. I'm mad, but I'll fix my window. Whereas now in a movie where if somebody broke your window, you're like, that person's capable of murdering me.
That's a good point.
And I think that like when you watch this movie now, you think if they get a hold of Shelley, they will definitely murder him.
Oh, absolutely.
But I don't think that's the truth. I think the truth of it is that these guys,
they'd probably like humiliate him.
They might beat him up.
They maybe like punch him in the stomach and take his pants off or something.
Right. Yeah. Or humiliate him.
Give him a wet willy.
Yeah, like definitely, like definitely
more
that
bully.
sort of shit, bully type stuff. But now, I don't think that character Ali. I think they were basically like the Easy Rider types, and where they're just living a life outside of the rules. And I really think the other two are like hangers on to the Ali character who just want to stir shit.
Sure.
And I read into this. This is clearly just my imagination. It is. So like when you think about like, but this is the fun.
You're projecting a lot.
I project a whole lot on these movies, and that's why I return to them, over and over again, because I'll find little things where I'm like, this is a playground because I was that age when I saw them. It's the sandbox.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, especially with those kind of characters that don't have real stakes in the main storyline.
It was interesting, kind of in that same field, but not really. I was listening to the podcast, The Best Movies Never Made.
Oh, yeah.
And they did an episode on Friday the 13th or Halloween, but they talked about how Friday the 13th and Revenge of the Nerds were the two franchises of the 80s. Because pretty much every year in that decade, you got a new entry in that. Like, it was like, oh, it's a new year. Time for a new entry in these franchises.
How many nerds did we get? I thought, do we only?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Police Academy.
Oh, Police Academy. Yeah,
Police
that makes
Academy
more sense.
and Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And I was like, I did watch both of those franchises.
No crossover.
Yeah. Oh, God. Can you imagine Hightower versus fucking Jason Voorhees?
That would have been fucking incredible.
Fuck. Here comes fan fiction.
When you think about the opportunist that Sean Cunningham is, and the fact that those are two things that you could mash up into something really crazy, like an Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
Oh, God damn it.
That would have been
those are two franchises that were kind of important to my childhood.
Yeah. Me too. I always think of the guy eating the cereal with the cat poop in it. You remember the real gross cop character who would eat candy out of the garbage and stuff?
Yes.
That scene, when you say Police Academy, the first scene I think of is where he's like, in the litter box!
I've never thought about that if you hadn't mentioned Police Academy to me.
Friday the 13th.
Yes.
13 kills in this one again.
They are, because if you include Jason,
Yeah.
You know my all-time favorite, Andy. Andy kill. The guy who walks on his hands.
Yeah.
It's another one of those things. Like, I remember that from my young years. Like, that fucked me up.
Did he kill him with an axe?
Because you don't really know exactly what he did. Like, it's this great kill of him. I love that sequence.
Me too.
He's walking on his hands. Like, they establish it early that this guy's a goofball.
Yeah.
And he like bumps into Jason and like looks up, and Jason comes down, but it looks like he cuts him in half sideways.
Yeah.
But when you see him later, it's fucking it's vertically.
Yeah.
It is such
what was the weapon? Could you tell?
I'm pretty sure it was a machete.
It was a machete. Okay. I was trying to figure that out. Like,
I'm almost 100% that it was a machete.
because he's always an opportunist. Like, he uses 2 pitchforks in this one. Like, Jason's about whatever's in the room.
Yep.
What about the unborn baby? Does that count as a? I guess if you're a Republican, there are 14 kills in this movie.
You're right.
And if you're Democrat,
She was pretty
there's 13.
young.
Yeah, I don't think that. Yeah, not to bring my very liberal politics into this, but
That is a weird thing they included.
they didn't have to include.
They didn't have to include that at all.
Yeah, so I
And,
wonder
like,
why.
They only mentioned it like 2 times.
Yeah,
Like, because she couldn't smoke weed because she's pregnant. And then they reference it.
they tried to get her to eat a whole bag of weed.
Yeah.
And she turns down the beer.
That's right.
Because she's like, you know what? On second thought, I don't want that beer. I heard about what happened to that Voorhees kid.
Yeah. I know what he could look like.
Rick's squeezing death is pretty great.
Only because I hate the character, yes. But
the eyeball popping out.
the eyeball pop is so. This is such a low budget kind of like thing. All of the 3D effects in this were so low budget. Like, all of them were visibly on string.
Yeah. The Abel, the eyeball man, the harbinger in this one.
Oh god, that was so good too.
Yeah, that's a great moment. And it's now Friday the 13th sticks to the 2 harbingers thing in this one because you get Abel warning them. He's like the crazy Ralph riff of this movie.
Yeah.
But then you get Chris's heart to heart with Rick about why she, her running away into the woods and encountering Jason. So you get 2, but you don't get that in Freddy's Nightmare. They break away again from the convention. You only get the 1 shot with Nancy's diary.
I was actually about to say with Nancy's diary would be the harbinger.
Yeah.
Which also, that scene, and again, I know we're bouncing back and forth. That scene was weird to me.
Yeah.
Because it didn't sound like Nancy dialogue. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
When she's reading out loud, it's like, that doesn't sound like stuff Nancy would have written.
Yeah.
It sounds like someone trying to write really bad teenage dialogue
it might have
or
been
journal entry. Because, like, if you remember, she's writing, like, sometimes I can see Glenn from my window.
Yeah.
And when he's changing, like, ooh, I get so tingly or something. Like, it gets like, it's like, I don't think Nancy would have talked like that.
It'd been funny if her diary was just like, I was watching Evil Dead, fell asleep, Glenn got turned into soup and sprayed on ceiling.
Phone licked me.
Phone licked me, and they're not even complete sentences.
Huh?
He says that he's my boyfriend now, so that's cool. I like having a boyfriend.
Don't know how I feel about that yet.
My last one is liquid.
Yeah, that scene bugged me for some reason. Maybe because it showed me, I was like, I guess I do kind of like Nancy as a character, because I was like, that doesn't. I don't
because you knew, you had a sense of what the character should sound like. Yeah. Huh. Yeah.
Like, even like the only one that somewhat made sense was when they got to the Freddy parts. Like Tina's dead.
Yeah.
His name was Freddy.
That was creepy, actually.
It was creepy.
Those moments still kind of like but that's the thing, and I think why when I was a kid I didn't like the movie is I wanted more of what I had in the first one.
Only because we talked last episode about favorite shots. Favorite shot in from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 was at the pool party when Freddy finally shows up and he's slashing the hell out of everyone. And God, I can't remember what character. I don't know if it was Jesse or it was the dad. But there's this shot where Freddy turns and looks at another character and there's like a tiki torch burning.
Oh, yeah.
And like he makes like this look on his face of like kind of like aggression. And I was like, ooh, that was actually kind of like scary. Like he has like a look of like anger and aggression.
Yeah, because you're used to him just giggling and laughing through all this madness, and then you get a much more lit look at Freddy. You really get to see his face for the first time.
And again, Freddy kind of taking a back seat in this movie. Like, Jesse's the star.
Oh, definitely.
Like, it's just like the first one where I said, like, Nancy was the star and Freddy was just a background character.
Yeah, I mean, because, and again, it goes back to that thing that I think the theme they were always going for with the Nightmare on Elm Street series in particular is it really is about each individual hero and what's going on in their head. It's not about Freddy coming from the outside and fucking their shit up. It's he gets in through whatever insecurity you have.
That's true.
And the insecurity with Jesse is that he knows he's gay and he can't figure out how to deal with it.
I think the scene that really solidified that, again, to go back to being a metaphor, is when Jesse is making out with his girlfriend-ish, and he stops. I mean, like, they never really established that. He stops because, like, his tongue gets weird. But he is,
I love the way you phrase that.
His tongue gets weird. But he runs to Grady's house.
Yeah.
And he runs into his bedroom and he says, like, can I sleep in here?
He loves Grady. They have a real budding romance, whereas this girl, Lisa,
she's just kind of there.
She really wants Jesse. She cares about him, but she doesn't get it.
Yeah.
She just doesn't get it. But it's that high school love where it's Romeo and Juliet and it's stupid intense.
Only their tongues get weird.
And when the tongues get weird. Does she remind you of Meryl Streep at all?
Yes, very much.
A lot. Yeah, me too.
Yes.
I had a running joke with a friend who we used to watch these movies maybe every other year. We would do what we called the night marathon, where we would get together at dawn and we'd watch as many of the movies, as were out at the time. We'd have donuts in the morning.
Only movie I've ever done that with, only franchise, Tomb of the Blind Dead.
Oh, I love those movies.
Dawn and I did that during the lockdown. I said, we're going to wake up. We're going to have, I can't remember what I called it. But yeah, we woke up early and started 1 and went through 4.
Yeah, I actually do that. I don't think Amy's seen them.
Oh, they're so great. One of my favorite.
The night marathon, when we would get to 2, and there's the scene where Jesse is fleeing the advances of Lisa at the pool party. And he goes behind the door and she's knocking on the door. And we always had this running joke with each other. We'd be like, taking a dump. Like she was just up his ass all the time, But best shot for me in Nightmare was when Jesse's in the shower and it fills with steam. And then Freddy Krueger steps out of the steam.
Okay, yeah.
And then for the Friday the 13th, we watched, I think my favorite shot is when Jason breaks through the window and he's framed in the window. Mm-hmm. And then it's that sequence, that shot is maybe my favorite shot, but the sequence continues to where she pushes the bookcase over.
Yeah.
And all those books fall into the frame. That is like awesome.
Mine would probably be the first time Jason wears the hockey mask and he's walking out onto the pier.
Yeah, it's a good reveal.
I love that.
I feel like that works when you, especially knowing that Shelley goes into that barn or boathouse, whatever it was, with the mask and everything, and then Jason walks out with it. But they didn't have to show Shelley, and Shelley is still in the process of dying, but like they didn't have to show it at that point. It would have weakened the moment. I think that's really the ultimate. That's just like implanting the flag and saying this is what Jason Voorhees is.
Yes, because comparing it to 2, Jason seemed a lot more mentally handicapped to me, whereas in this one he seemed a little bit more methodical. Yeah, and like that scene to me, that shot of him walking out onto the pier, like casually carrying a spear gun. And then just casually like lifting it, like, and also I know exactly what I'm doing.
The idea that he put the mask on at all.
Yeah. Yep.
Is it because, and you kind of get the impression in 2 that he wears a mask because he's ashamed of his appearance. Mm-hmm. But there are moments in this movie, I don't know if he's having like a boost of confidence about himself where he pulls the mask up to show someone. And I think this reads real interesting. Like you were saying about him being more calculating and maybe more intelligent than the character is supposed to be. Like he pulls the mask up a couple of times and says, "Look at me," basically, like without saying it. But it's a kind of fuck you to the person he's about to kill, like where he's shows his
scary.
face. And it's scary, yeah. And it speaks more to the idea of this vindictive character that traveled to in the second movie that traveled to what's her nuts house to kill her with the ice pick, Alice. That it tracks really well with that. What could have been with this character, right?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah,
he could have just been this lumbering, murderous, Hulk that goes from one place to another killing people. Instead of he becomes the myth of Crystal Lake. I think because of you have to go mythological with the way this one wraps up to keep the franchise going.
Oh yeah, it's a good point.
Like that.
I just realized something, by the way. The next episode we do is going to be a biggie.
Oh yeah, why is that?
Because you're getting like the two best entries to me.
Of both
you're getting Dream Warriors and
new chapter or no
Final Chapter.
Final Chapter. I always forget the subtitles with the Friday the 13th movies. I get them all mixed up.
See, I usually have them memorized.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are two biggies.
The they are really both great. Yeah, they might be the best of both.
That's my argument.
I mean, I've always thought
Dream Warriors. Then again, I'm not jumping the gun. I love Dream Warriors. I love Dream Warriors.
So fun. What's wrong with my brain? It's not important.
Couple things. I don't know.
Probably a lot. So I want to talk about the music.
Okay.
And then we can talk about loose ends and effects and all that if you want. I think like we kind of addressed effects. There's just a couple things in Nightmare. Yeah. But the disco version of the Friday the 13th music.
Love it.
Yeah, me too.
Love it.
It fits the 3D thing.
It does.
Real well because they're both.
Very 80s.
Yeah.
It's 80s.
It's the end. It's right at this time. Like if you didn't grow up in this era, like this is when people had started to turn on disco. And, but when you pair it with those 3D credits and putting it in a horror film, it feels subversive or something. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just like, it's like, we know this trend might be dying. We're going to gamble on, we're going to go ahead and do it.
It's a good way of putting it.
And to me, it's timeless because it's a time, it marks the moment. Well, I shouldn't say it's timeless. I should say it's timely.
Yes.
It's like you said,
it's a time capsule.
It's the 80s, man. It's red and blue 3D.
Yep.
It is this original score, but arranged for disco strings and stuff. It's like these are things that like they don't exist anymore.
Very good point.
It's like completely of the era, which I just love. I just love that shit.
I loved it,
and it never measures up when someone tries to recreate that vibe.
Exactly.
It never looks the same.
Like all these newer movies that try to like replicate.
Right.
Doesn't work.
I considered when I was writing the theme music for this podcast, like doing a take on that disco style Friday the 13th. And I was like, there's no point. I was like, there is no way you can even come close to creating something special. That's a once in the series moment for me. Where I'm just
that's a good point.
That's just
I agree with that.
Beautiful moment. And then after that, it switches back to the orchestration that you're used to hearing.
I'm pretty sure it's just recycled.
It used it again later in the movie, but you mean you're talking about the score from the second one? Yeah, it probably is.
Yeah,
it wouldn't make sense for them to re-record a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just a recycled one.
And then when you get to the Nightmare and you get Freddy's Revenge, they abandoned the original score. They abandoned the original instrumentation, the way that was put together with all the synthesizers and stuff in the first one. Like, and they go hard John Williams with it. Like they bring in French horns and a symphony. And like, I mean, it's not, I shouldn't say it's that level. It's not that big of a arrangement, but it's that vibe is what I meant by that. Like with the John Williams vibe where it reminded me of the Fortress of Solitude music and points.
Wow. When you say that, I can see it.
Yeah, the French horn stuff. That You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's like, I'm like, that just reminds me of him, like Superman going to the Fortress of Solitude, and in the Superman movie, that instrument, it kind of is like, this is a mysterious and powerful place, and they kind of use that in Freddy's Revenge to indicate these moments when Freddy and Jesse are kind of in the same room together.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, they do.
So like, I really.
Almost like the shark in Jaws.
Yeah, it's that same. Yeah, it's a cue.
Like they only use it when that's happening.
Yeah, and you know when you hear it that
this is what's happening.
It really it was another reason I hated the movie when I was a kid, and for much of the times I've watched it. But like, it has grown on me where I'm like, it's a legitimately good score all on its own.
Yeah, I give it to it.
It's not recognizable the way the first movie.
You couldn't play it and point it out, really.
Right. I know Nightmare when I hear it. I know Friday the 13th when I hear it. And of course, Friday the 13th never tried to completely break away from what it was.
Oh, I could hear a handful of notes from that disco thing and be like, oh, part 3.
Right, yeah. So you just know, like, if you played the music from Freddy's Nightmares, Freddy's Nightmares. I meant to say Freddy's Revenge. If you played this music and I wasn't watching the movie, I don't know that I would necessarily recognize it, even though I've seen this movie maybe 10 times now.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, it doesn't stand out. So I think Friday, by knowing what works and sticking with it, was the winner on that one.
FX.
Yeah. I love the Jesse Freddy burst scene.
Yeah, that is pretty fucked up. I'll give you that one. Yeah, other than that, to me, there wasn't a ton of FX in it.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I guess it's unfair. I'm comparing it to the first one, and I'm not supposed to, but it's hard to get that out of my head.
Yeah.
You know, the only other one that really stands out is when Freddy pulls his, like, skin off the top of his head and reveals the brain.
I love that. I love he quotes Pet Shop Boys.
That's true.
It's another.
You've got the brain.
It's another moment where it's like, Jesse, you're gay.
Yeah. Like
in your subconscious, Freddy Krueger talks about the Pet Shop Boys.
Yeah, those are the only two that really stand out for me.
Yeah. I do like where they have the models where they turn. They go into the desert of the dream world. And
and you see the bus on the two things. Okay, I'll give you that one.
That reminded me of Beetlejuice a lot.
Yeah.
And it kind of shows, I don't think they really returned to that until like part 6, that level of silliness and the look of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, thinking of this as a standalone movie, I like that, but it's a tease because again, we're not going back there.
Yeah.
Like you get this massive environment and then you have to spend the rest of the movie in reality, you know, like
sure.
I kind of like craved more of
I agree.
Dream World stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other, besides that, God, the dogs.
Those things were weird as shit.
Do you feel like they were just riffing on Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
They had to, because I saw it and I was like, what the fuck does this have to do with anything?
Right.
Unless it's like Freddy using like teenagers that he's killed like as guard dogs.
Oh, maybe.
Like
it's weird how the dream world.
But you never really get a solid shot of them either. They're quick. Because I was watching it like, what are these exactly? It's like it's dogs with people faces, but Invasion you get it like full on.
Yeah.
So these like they're moving and bouncing a lot, and it's hard to focus on them.
And you get when you watch Invasion of the Body Snatchers that it's maybe one of two things that like they try to snatch a person and a dog got in the pod with them.
Mm-hmm.
Is kind of how I saw that.
Oh, it's that homeless guy.
Is that who it was?
Yeah, it's the homeless guy that has his dog.
Okay, so that's why they're blended together. So like it makes sense. Like you can look back at the movie and piece that together. I don't feel like when they made this, that was a
that could be a loose end.
Yeah, they were just like, it's interesting to have dogs with people faces on them. And what did you say? Did you say that Invasion had one in it? We're gonna put 2 in our movie.
Take that.
Twice as many people face dogs, and they could put that on the poster and it could say twice as many human face dogs as Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's pretty fun though. I gotta say, I did consider dressing the girls up that way for Halloween now.
So what are some of your loose ends?
Oh boy. We talked about Fox touching everything. We talked about Jason returning Chris to her bed.
Yeah. I think we've talked about some of mine.
When you get to the end of this film, I have a question.
Okay.
Did the cops ever process Jason's body? Or do we even address that in the next film?
You address it in the next one.
They do? I wasn't sure.
It's because you got to remember part 4 picks up exactly where this leaves off.
Yeah, okay. I'm looking forward to getting to that one.
Part 4 is peak slasher movie to me.
I love having an excuse to watch all these movies.
Yeah, I never need one, but sure.
I didn't need one, but also it sells it in the house. You know what I mean?
Does.
Where I'm like,
hey, doing a podcast.
Work. This is for work. I've got to watch every Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th.
A loose end for me on Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 would be just like the first one, the ending. Like what happens at the end. It's kind of like the same thing. It ends how it opens.
Yeah.
The bus is going too fast, and it ends with like the bus getting. How does it end?
She bursts out. Freddy bursts out of the other friend, the kind of like rough and tumble gal.
Really?
She's like, "It's safe now. It's over."
That's right.
And then the claw pops out.
Yes.
Which actually, that was the moment when I saw this the first time that really that jump scare got me as a kid.
It's a good one.
It's pretty good.
But it is also kind of like the ending of the first one where it's like, did it happen?
Yeah.
Did they beat Freddy but not?
I don't think I kind of like if you assume that Freddy always wins, it makes those moments of where she confesses her love to Jesse and it plays so corny and stupid. And it's kind of like when you watch the first one and Nancy turns her back on Freddy and it doesn't feel 100% earned. It's the same in this, but it's okay because it didn't work.
Yeah.
It's okay that it was corny, that true love didn't win out because it didn't win out. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like, had it really been the solution to everything right in front of them
That's
all this
point.
time, it's a little too easy.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, I like that the presumption is that, like, Freddy just goes back. He's like Wile E. Coyote. Like, he goes back to the drawing board every time.
I better become a vehicle.
He's like, I need to have a different approach. This isn't working for me. I talked to my therapist. He said I should be a car.
Yeah, I got nothing on that.
Did anyone call Rhonda? If you remember on the chalkboard, it said call Rhonda.
I don't remember that.
Remember, if you notice throughout Freddy's Revenge, the chalkboard in every scene changes. I noticed in the kitchen.
Really?
Yeah, they put different notes on it. And
okay.
So I noticed like it was big enough in the scene that I'm like, oh, this is something. Someone's having fun. So I try to pay attention to what the sign said every time.
That's a good one.
But of course I didn't catch everything.
Naturally.
Because, unlike you, I did get into the movie at a certain point.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, Friday the 13th 3 is much better than Freddy's Revenge.
It is.
Overall.
It is.
And we talked about the whole thing, like, where do we get the idea that Freddy was a janitor?
Yeah.
Is it a Mandela effect or is it in the movies? Which we'll find out. I mean, we're going to go through all these.
Yeah. That's definitely going to be something I keep my ears open for.
Did any pieces of dialogue stand out to you?
In Nightmare on Elm Street? Yeah. Not particularly.
Yeah. I think... What about in Friday?
Oh, geez. Well, you're putting me on the spot with that.
See, I was stalling to look up.
You shouldn't be putting me on the spot because I know that movie so well.
It's okay. Here's what I'm going to do. How was that for stalling? Did it give your brain a chance to reset? Was Freddy's gloves enough for you? I have I got to say that I think in Nightmare 2, my favorite line is "You're all my children now." When Freddy
well, yes, that's classic.
I because it's in the trailer. But it's also kind of famously misleading in that you see it in the trailer and you think there's going to be a whole lot of Freddy in this, and then it's going to be like Freddy on a rampage when it's really just this brief scene. Although the trampling in that scene, the fact that some of the kids climb over each other to escape the party is a pretty shocking moment at the time when they released the movie. Like, you didn't see a lot of that. And the Who concert was in more recent memory here in Cincinnati where we live, where some real life teenagers were trampled to death.
I like this one actually. How come you never scream when we have sex? Give me something to scream about.
Which couple was this?
That was the hippie couple.
Oh yeah,
which you didn't really get to touch on too much, but because like they were like 40-year-old hippies like hanging out with these teenagers.
I love those two. Was it Chuck and Debbie or
Chuck and Chili?
Oh, Chili.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah, that's right. Chuck is so Tommy Chong.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. And the fact that he dies by electricity makes his character even like kind of funnier to me.
I agree with
that. Poor Chili gets killed with a hot poker to the gut.
Such a weird scene too, because like not a very good death scene, because she's like kind of running around the house, kind of screaming.
Is she too high to cope?
And then she gets stabbed like,
yeah.
Like then that's that.
And it's kind of cooking her guts on the end of it. That I always thought that was gross, like because it's so hot that the meat that's pushed out of her back is starting to cook onto it. That's a great moment.
The other one from Shelley that actually did makes you feel for him when he says, "Would you be yourself if you looked like this?"
Oh, poor Shelley. Didn't he become an attorney or something? Yeah, like he's did. Pretty successful, I think. As you talked about, you didn't feel that the diary was genuine to the character, but I did like those moments of when they read that as dialogue.
I liked when they got to the Freddy parts.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I did like the parts about Freddy. I felt like were matter-of-factly written, and it struck me as kind of chilling. But other than that, not a lot of notable dialogue in either one of these. I think catchphrases are something that come to both of these series, not so much from Jason, but from his victims in the future ones. And then a lot of quotes from Freddy coming up. Yeah. Which actually, in some people's eyes, ruined the character by making him not as scary.
I can see that.
And other people feel it refined it and made it what it is. So
I can see both sides of that.
What can you do? What a blast.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm trying to remember. I'm wanting to make sure we're not missing anything major. We talked about Yeah, I think we've covered these pretty good.
Yeah, this was a good one.
Yeah.
This was a good deep dive.
I'm really looking forward to going deeper in.
Always.
Sounds so dirty. So we'll be back maybe next Friday. Who knows?
Who knows?
We'll figure it out. Enjoy your week.
The boat ashore, hallelujah.